Well, it is tough to find a better way to kick off another season of summer fun than with the greatest show on dirt. How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson, and this is Midco Motorsports. The World of Outlaws were supposed to host a duel in the Dakotas over the weekend with their first scheduled appearances of the season at both River Cities and Huset Speedways. Friday's stop in Grand Forks is this week's a feature.
The legendary bull ring among the favorite stops on the circuit for a number of the world's top drivers, including, of course, North Dakota native Donny Schatz. The late models were the night's support class, and a couple of former track champs started up front. That's Joey Peterson showing the way, followed closely by Dustin Strand. But it would be a tough go for the 71. Couple of laps in, Strand kicks a tire in turn 3, and that would bring him to a stop real quick. Strand actually one of 14 cars that failed to finish the race. Peterson would pick up where he left off after the restart, but it wasn't long before he'd be hounded by Brody Troftgruben. The 14 car looking to edge past the 7P along the bottom, but Peterson wasn't going down without a fight. He slams the door once, then does it again the next time around. But Troftgruben's persistence would eventually pay off. A few laps later, he shoots past Peterson as they come out of turn 4, and Troftgruben would not look back after that. The Grand Forks native successfully winds through lap traffic and goes on to pick up his first win of 2022.
You know, I saw 7P. I looked up a couple times at the scoreboard. I saw that he was in second, and he's been really, really good on this type of stuff, so I figured he was right there with me. But I kind of got down in the bottom where it was less bumpy, but if I was up in the middle where I had to pass some cars, it'd really take off on you. And on this type of track, it can wear you down if you're not in shape, that's for sure.
From there, they went 4 wide for the night's main event. Carson Macedo and Logan Schuhart on the front row to start the 35-lap feature, and it's the Shark Racing car that gains command at the drop of the green flag. Schuhart, who was one of 11 drivers that turned in a sub-10-second lap in qualifying, set a torrid pace that saw him reach traffic within the first few laps. That, of course, allowed Macedo to close the gap a bit, which he did, while following Schuhart around the middle. Lap 11, Schuhart decides to briefly give the bottom a shot, and that would prove costly because it allowed Macedo to take his shot in the 41, makes it count. Macedo ducks underneath Schuhart in turn 3, and the Jason Johnson Racing Rocket dominated the rest of the way. Macedo pulls away for his 5th win of the season, matching Sheldon Haudenschild for the series high.
I think it was just really hooked up. Conditions aren't always slick and smooth. Sometimes they're rough and heavy, so I'm glad we were able to cowboy up and get a win tonight. My guys did an incredible job. I thought this 41 car was really quick. I think we were tight, but I think there was a lot of guys that were a lot worse than us. And we were able to just kind of herd it around there and get a win.
Unfortunately, there would be no more racing for the Outlaws on the weekend, specifically at Huset Speedway, which was forced to postpone Sunday's event due to rain. That was especially disappointing after Todd Quiring's team had worked tirelessly all week to get the facility back to race-ready condition following the most recent severe storm that rolled through southeast South Dakota over Memorial Day weekend. The good news is they are planning to make that show up, and we won't have to wait all that long to see it. It's been reset for Wednesday, June 22nd, one night prior to the start of the inaugural Huset's High Bank Nationals, which runs June 23rd through the 25th. The combined top prizes for those 4 nights of racing will be $145,000.
North Dakota native Donny Schatz is always a draw when the Outlaws come to town. Brian Shawn will catch up with the 10-time series champion when Midco Motorsports rolls on.
You're watching Midco Motorsports, presented by Huset.
Well, there has been a lot of parity so far this season on the World of Outlaws Tour with 11 different winners in 24 events. One driver, though, that is used to finding himself in victory lane more frequently is 10-time champion Donny Schatz. After a win at Volusia to open the schedule, the Fargo native is still searching for his second victory of 2022 as he and his team continue tinkering with their engine program. Midco Sports' Brian Shawn caught up with Donny at his shop last week to talk about that and a whole lot more. It's this week's Inside Track.
All right, here with the 10-time World of Outlaw champion, Donny Schatz. Back in the Midwest for a while. You guys have been on the East Coast and the West Coast, and now you're pretty much parked in the Midwest over the next 6 weeks. I know you've been fighting some things. I know it's always going to be a challenge for you. How is that going here throughout this early part of the season?
You know, it started off really good the first night. We just can't seem to get a baseline, can't get a balance. We really don't have a go-to motor for things. We just, you know, it's just a dynamic that if one thing's wrong, it's like there's 10 things wrong, and we change one and 10 other things change. So it's not from lack of effort. The guys are doing a phenomenal job. We got a great group of guys. You know, that's kind of what keeps us all going is the guys we get to race with. So we're working on it, but that's all we can really do. The finishes have been really subpar. I mean, it doesn't take long to look at the stats and figure out, you know, we're not where we want to be. But like I said, at the end of the day, we're with a great group of guys. They just keep digging. They have all the focus in the world, and we'll get it. It's just win.
Yeah. Beyond even that, Donny, there's challenges in this industry, just like there is in every other industry, which is getting parts, getting tires, trying to figure this stuff out when it takes so long for everything to transpire. And even diesel prices, I mean, this all factors in to making this a tough operation here in 2022.
Yeah, it's you know, there's a lot of things that none of us seen coming. This tire shortage, and it's not just sprint car racing. It's all forms of racing. And you know, even if they went tomorrow and just tried to get a surplus, you know, it would affect everything else. So it's kind of like when you get behind, it's really hard to get pulled out of that gutter. But you know, getting parts, engine parts are hard to get. Right now you can't get blocks, you can't get certain things, you know, rocker arms. It's just, it's all across the board with everything you do. It's just incredible, but it's made it a little bit of a challenge. You know, I think they've adapted well to the tire rule. Obviously, I think going to one tire a night is something that's probably could stick across the board to begin with. I mean, there's a lot of series that's what they do, and that would force a guy to change the way they race a little bit rather than abuse tires for a short amount of time and put new ones on for the features. So it affects some things quite a bit, but that's what we have to deal with us as we run one right rear night. So I think there's some good things, but it'd be nice to get back to where, you know, hey, you cut a tire down, you actually have a spare. There's a lot of guys that don't have that luxury. So it's just something to deal with. It just makes it more of a challenge.
And you've gone back to a little more of a throwback scheme this year on the paint, back to the yellow 15, kind of going back to the roots a little bit. I know drivers, they care more about what's inside the car than what's outside the car, but it's still kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, I can't see the color when I'm in the car, so. But you know, it's a little bit of a throwback. Yellow's always been, you know, something my father has loved because it's easy to spot on the racetrack. And I joke with him a lot. I say, well, you should be looking up front, but right now that's not actually the case. So it's probably good that it's yellow. You can spot it pretty easy wherever it's at. And you know, it brings back some fond memories from a lot of years. And you know, it really looks good. It looks good with the CarQuest logo on there. It makes it pop. So we're happy with the yellow, and we'll see if we can't get a few more victories with the yellow like the yellow used to get.
This summer, it feels like there's more multi-day shows, big money shows than what we've had in the past. You know, we always had these nationals here and there, but Huset is adding multi-day shows. We're seeing what Tony is doing with Eldora, adding multiple shows there. It feels like more money is coming into the sport, at least on some level, and I'm guessing from your standpoint, that's a positive thing.
Yes and no. There is and there isn't. You know, our platform here, the payoff structure is based off 3,000 people in the stands, and it's been that way for a long time. Now we don't have just 3,000 people in the stands. We got the stands full, and we got this streaming money. And what's happening, the streaming money isn't necessarily coming back to us in any way, shape, or form, but what it's done in late model racing is, you know, you have 2 Premier Series, and now you have another streaming series with XR that's allowed these guys to race for huge money, and I think you're going to see that come down the sprint car turnpike here very soon. We'll just see what happens with it. We'll do our best to keep pushing them along, and it has definitely changed. The streaming has definitely changed the dynamics of it, and everybody was worried it was going to take people out of the stands. We don't have events like that. I'm sorry. People still come to see the World of Outlaws. They still come to get autographs. They still come to see their favorite drivers. So it's it's as strong as it ever has, and all it can do is go this way.
Well, we need everything to go this way because everything else is going this way for all of us as well. Donnie, thanks as always for the time, and we'll see you down the road.
Thanks, Brian.
Now, Schatz and the rest of the Outlaws will be back on the track this weekend for the 2-day Brownells Big Guns Bash at Knoxville Raceway. They'll return to our area for those 4 straight days at Huset Speedway in late June. Well, speaking of Knoxville, they played a little catch-up last week. Highlights from their double 410 features, plus a peek at the late model run at Rocky next. Knoxville Raceway unveiled its latest Hall of Fame class last week. The lone driver among that group is Craig Delansky, who racked up 16 career wins at the track to go along with 3 third-place finishes at the Knoxville Nationals. Saturday, though, it was time to put the focus back on some of the drivers who might eventually be enshrined alongside Delansky.
Unfortunately, it would be a tough start for the top 2 guys in the points. Austin McCarl and Justin Henderson get together in turn 4, and that would be it for the 7 car. Fellow South Dakota native Matt Jewell didn't fare much better. The 09 hard into the fence in turn 1 on the restart. Scary wreck, but Jewell was okay. When racing resumed, pole setter Josh Higday did his best to try and hold off Linton Jeffrey, but that was simply not going to happen because Jeffrey was in the midst of a record-setting run. The Aussie completed the 20-lap circuit in 5 minutes 25.2 seconds to set the new track standard, breaking the mark set by Justin Henderson 14 years ago. For Jeffrey, it was his 6th career 410 win at Knoxville. Jeffrey and company would come back out later on to make up the rained-out race from April 23rd, and this one featured a torrid start from Aaron Reitzel. He pilots the 8 machine all the way from 4th to 1st before the end of lap 1. Ryan Brown making a strong move of his own here, first working past Jeffrey for 3rd, and then picking off Austin McCarl for the runner-up position. Blackjack would slowly reel in Reitzel after that, and he'd get his shot at him with 2 to go, but Aaron just barely manages to hold him off, and Reitzel hangs on to grab his 2nd Knoxville win of 2022. The Super Late Model Racing Series made a stop at Rapid Speedway on Friday, and with rain moving in, they got bumped to the head of the line. Ames, Iowa's Charlie McKenna jumped to the front from the pole, but it was the guy a couple of rows back that was starting to make a move. Tad Pospisil pilots the 04 up 1 spot to 3rd here, but he did not stop there. Pospisil swipes the silver spot from J.C. Wyman, then starts to hunt down McKenna. It'd take him a while, but he would get there with less than 5 to go. Pospisil powers around the inside of McKenna to take the lead, and he would seal the deal from there. The driver out of Norfolk, Nebraska notches his 3rd SLMR win of the season. To the USRA Hobby Stocks now, and this would be a battle for the top spot between Landon Crone and Dustin Gulbranson throughout. Crone led the first 3 laps before Gulbranson powers around the bottom of the track to grab the lead. 5 laps to go now, and Crone goes high to regain his momentum, and he would regain the lead as well. That pass would settle it as Crone picks up his first career victory at Rapid Speedway. The B-Mods would end up being the last race of the night. Kevin Joachim shoots to the front of the line initially, but he did not stay there for long, giving way to the 8M of Caleb Motter a few laps later. Last year's track champion Jackson Mulder would state his case before all was said and done, and he grabs the top spot on lap 8. Fast forward to the white flag, Derek Van Veldhuizen making a charge, but it would be too little too late. Mulder hangs on for his first checkered flag of the season at Rocky.
Coming up, a true test of endurance in Mandan. Find out which driver captured the title of Ironman at Dacotah Speedway when we come back. Well, what started as a search for something different has quickly become one of the region's truest tests of dirt track endurance. Dacotah Speedway hosted the second annual Ironman 100 over the weekend, which culminated with a 100-lap main event for the IMCA Modifieds. 24 drivers all vying for a shot at a $5,000 top prize and a spot in September's Fast Shafts All-Star Invitational.
With that much at stake, there's bound to be some trouble, and we'd see it on the very first corner as Fargo's Austin Arneson gets turned around. Several cars collected in that miss, and Arneson's bid pretty much squashed at that point. He finished 8th. They'd keep it clean on the restart, and it would be Bismarck's Quentin Kinsley moving to the front of the field. As the 24Q tried to settle in, one guy was already starting his charge, defending Ironman champ Colin Hibdon, all the way up from 15th to 5th by lap 6. Back at the front now, Kinsley has some company, and fellow Bismarck native Jeremy Keller steals the lead in the 11K. Lap 27, Hibdon continues his march toward the front as he gets around Sean Strand for the runner-up position. At the halfway mark, Keller still in command, followed by Hibdon and Strand, but things really heated up with 20 to go. Hibdon keeping the pressure on Keller in traffic, and he eventually gets the job done. Hibdon makes the pass with 18 to go, and he would finish it off from there. The driver out of Pahrump, Nevada does it again, claiming his second Ironman 100 title in as many years. Back in South Dakota, good turnout to see Saturday's action at I-90 Speedway. Pick things up with the USRA Hobby Stocks, which saw Travis Christensen win an early duel with James Adams for the lead. Adams stuck close for most of the race, but he would lose his grip on second with 3 to go. After the restart, Christensen gets a new challenge from Brandon Jurens, but the 20 car equal to the task. Christensen guts it out to earn his first win in Hartford since 2002. Lots of movement in the night's B-Mod feature, including that of points leader Maya Christensen. The Sioux Falls native takes advantage of an early restart to go from 5th to the lead in one corner. Wasn't all that smooth from Christensen, though. He gets a little too low in turn 1 here and clips the concrete barrier. That allowed Dustin Cruz to close the gap down the stretch, but he just ran out of time. Christensen hangs on for his second straight win at I-90. Fantastic finish in the late model street stocks. J.J. Zabel set the pace from the start of this one, but his wire-to-wire bid would be tested by John Hoeing. The 55 giving the 29Z all it can handle in the final turn, but it's not quite enough. Zabel nips Hoeing at the line by .092 seconds. Not nearly as much drama in the Race Saver Sprint feature. Lee Goose Jr. made a quick climb from 9th to pass Micah Slendy for the lead on lap 7, and that was that as Goose Jr. cruises to win number 1 for 2022.
Cory Yeigh has won a lot of battles at Huset Speedway over the years, but in 2021, he finally won the war. We'll hear from the reigning late model street stocks champion next.
You're watching Midco Motorsports, presented by Huset.
Not every driver sets their sights on track championships at the start of the summer, but winning one, especially at a place like Huset Speedway, is an accomplishment that should not be taken for granted. Cory Yeigh ended last season at the top of the racing roller coaster, but he knows there is no guarantee he will stay there. Yeigh is the focus of this week's Driver Spotlight.
As far as late model street stock drivers go, few have handled the high banks of Huset Speedway better than Cory Yeigh, although not even he can explain why.
I don't know. Do you know? Because I don't know. I don't know. It's just luck, I guess.
Luck is obviously part of the equation, but there's also been a fair amount of skill involved with Yeigh's 17 career wins, which ranks 12th in Huset's history. 2021 was his best year yet. Yeigh led all drivers with 6 wins on the season. which ended with his first track championship.
It's everybody that's involved. Everybody from my wife, my dad, he puts my motors together. Lee Schlumbum scales it. Tim fixes anything I need fixed. He's there anytime you need him. He'll drop whatever he needs. All my sponsors. It's just a team deal. I work on it every day all week, but these guys, they're here for support, and people that show up and pit, everybody.
Unfortunately, Yeigh has already been reminded just how cruel racing can be. Sometimes championship effort just isn't enough.
Last year was good for us. This year, it's not starting off real great. I don't know. We're gonna keep doing what we were doing and hope for the best, I guess. Just not give up. And we had motor problems last week, and just hope them stay away. Actually, all problems, but usually my luck goes south. They go south in a hurry. We'll see if we can get that back.
He'll need to in order to have a shot at repeating against a rapidly improving field.
We got a bunch of new guys, and even they're coming out pretty competitive, which is cool to see. I think it's even this year, just a lot of everybody else seemed like they brought their programs up and got faster, so that's a good thing.
Yeigh's defense of his track championship is off to a decent start. He's one of 3 drivers in that class to record a win over the first 3 races this season. But that parity is reflected on the Huset's leaderboard, where the top 7 competitors are currently separated by just 4 points. All right, well, that'll do it for us for this week. For Brian, Sean, and our producer Levi Vanderwady, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the races, everyone. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night for another episode of Midco Motorsports.